Hello, hello, testing. Just give me a little shout out if you can hear me. Okay, thanks a lot. Welcome to the second to the last class, really. Slightly different chair today, so it's messing up a little bit with my angle here, but hopefully it should be fine. And hopefully you're all doing good. And hopefully we could get some things figured out today. Further in figuring out JavaScript programming, and particularly as it pertains to web page stuff and what you guys can do, cool stuff, hanging around, playing around with websites, making websites, modifying websites, adding cool features to websites, and being a good developer that knows how to do this stuff. So last time we did some code camp. We did some hardcore programming algorithms, how to step through a bunch of text piece by piece and calculate it and do things with it and loop through it one by one and go through an array and go through, using the loop with the counter that keeps counting up and all that. That's a very good fundamental practice thing to get very familiar with, and I would highly, highly recommend you guys go through these exercises over here in the freecodecamp.org website. Go to this part about JavaScript and go to basic algorithm scripting. If you guys manage to go through each and every one of these exercises here, which is a little bit like the exercise we did last time, each time it has a different challenge for you, like take a variable and do this with it, or take a string and do that, or whatever. And you have to figure out, given the knowledge that you have the mathematical operators, you have if statements, you have booleans, if something is true, if something is false, if something is more than, equals to, less than, all the different things that you learned and applying them to solve a certain problem by going through it step by step and figuring out how would you solve this in programming. So, someone is asking if there's 3 more classes. I'm not entirely sure. I think this is the second to the last one. But someone definitely feel free to correct me if that's not correct. And someone is saying that is, if I'm not mistaken, this is class number 13. So that means Thursday is the 14th, and that's the last one, or July 2nd is supposed to be the last one. Maybe I did really miscalculate. Maybe we're one off because 1 week we skipped, or 2 weeks we skipped. July 2nd, you guys are saying is the last one. Okay, I may have messed up the numbers then. This might not be class 13 then. Somehow this might be class number 12, and next one is 13, and then July 2nd is 14 or something. Or there's supposed to be 16 classes, and I probably completely messed up the class numbers. All right, I totally apologize about that. I may not have kept good track with that. My plus operator to increment the number by 1 each time may have gotten a little lost somewhere along the way, so I may have miscalculated. All right, I'll confirm about that with Rabbi Wordy, and we'll see where we're holding. Okay, so having said that, okay. Having said that, I wanted to, let's see, we could either continue and finish the exercise we did last time, which this is not the code of, but I think I posted the code on the Slack. Or if we leave that to you guys to finish up and figure out the rest, I think that might be a good exercise for you guys to do, which is one of the exercises over there on that website, is to capitalize every first letter of a word, which is, where is that? Convert cells to reverse a string, find the longest word, return the one. Title case a sentence. So maybe I'll leave that for you guys to figure out. And maybe if guys are feeling comfortable enough, I'm going to try to dip our feet again a little bit back into arrays, objects, and finally, we're going to do a bit more jQuery. Let's see if we can do a jump like that. and you guys tell me whether whether you're following or if I should slow down a bit or if it's clear enough. So here's what I want to get into. When you are making a website, when you're creating a web page, which might be something like the project that we were working on, which was something like this one, topbabydeals.com. No, topbabydeal.com. That's what it is. Okay, so when you're making a cool website, perhaps something like this, or if it isn't something like this, it's going to be something pretty similar to this, because in most of your websites, you're going to have something that counts up. You know, there's a bunch of contacts, or there's a bunch of deals, or a bunch of products, or a bunch of messages, and you're going to list them up, maybe one next to each other, row by row, or maybe one on top of each other, like this list over here. Whatever it is, chances are you're going to be having like a bunch of something, a bunch of information, and you're going to want to show them on your website one after another after another. Something like this, or similar, or different. Maybe it's airline tickets. Maybe it's whatever it is. You know, it could be all sorts of different things. Albums in a photo. You know, you have one photo and another photo and another one and another one, and you have to bring up each one and show them to the person one after another on the page. So this information comes from somewhere, and as we were going to see, and if we might still have a bit of time, we'll recap it real quickly towards the end. This information is going to come out of the server, and it's going to come out of the database somewhere. If you guys remember the whole lesson we had on how the internet works. Let's see over here, just to see if I can quickly pull up the little drawings we made back then. I still have them here somewhere. I may have, either I saved them somewhere, which would be great, or I may have lost them to time. Oh, I do have them actually. Cool. Okay, here we go. So if you guys remember, the internet is basically just one computer trying to connect to the other computer. And when you browse a website, you're sending a message out there to the internet saying, hey, please give me this web page. And that message that you sent out goes across the internet, and it finds somewhere a computer which has a fancy name. It's called a server, but really it's pretty much just a computer that has a bunch of files in it, and it's programmed specifically to answer different requests. When someone brings you this request, it goes to that computer, to that server, and it looks up in its files and it looks up in its programming what exactly is it supposed to give you when you ask for this. It might find an HTML file, and it might say, here, I'm going to send you back this entire HTML file, put it back across the internet to that computer that asked me for it, and his browser is going to try to show that page in his browser as best as he could, and you'll be able to start seeing the page, seeing all the pieces of the page coming together, thanks to the fact that he requested for it and the server answered him back with that stuff. So part of this kind of asking the server for something and the server giving you back this page, part of that, the server might have inside of it a bunch of files like HTML files, JavaScript files, CSS files, and it also might have a special program. Just like on your computer, you have different kinds of programs. You have a photo browsing program. You have a browser program. You have maybe a code editing program, right? So on your server, where this internet website is happening, on the server, there's a program called a database system. Or if you want to get fancy, it's called a RDBMS, a relational database management system, or it's called a database server, or something like that. It's basically just a program that runs on your computer, and its job is kind of a little bit like a server itself, like a little server inside of your server. You kind of ask it for information, and it gives you information. Give me everyone's first name in the address book. And it gives you everyone's first name in the address book. Give me everyone's first name, last name, age, and address from the address book and from the contact book. And he looks up into the contact book, and he looks up into the address book, and he combines that information together, and it gives you back every name, first name, last name, age, and address. Give me every name and contact that I messaged in the past month. And the database system is going to go through all the data and search for pieces of information of things that happened in the last month, sorted by date or something like that. It's kind of a little bit like, if you think of it as a Google spreadsheet, that's basically a little bit what a database is like. Let's just open up an example just to have it fresh in my mind, in our minds, what it looks like, what we're talking about. So just like in a spreadsheet, which hopefully you guys are familiar with, you've probably messed around with some of these kinds of sheets before, where you put in people's names and phone numbers, emails, or whatever, what have you not that you might have. Maybe you made some financial projections, or maybe you have some contact lists, or maybe you're organizing a school or a camp or something, and you need everyone's information in a list. So this is kind of what the database system on that server thing I was talking about does. It's basically like a bunch of Excel sheets, a bunch of spreadsheets like this that have a bunch of information saved inside of them. And you kind of request and receive information from the database. Hey, database, give me the first 5 rows of this sheet. And the database gives you all the information of those first 5 rows. Hey, database, give me 3 rows from here and 6 rows from there, matched up by their ID number or something. And the database goes and it fetches all those information from this sheet and that sheet and the other sheet and combines them together and gives them back to you. That's the idea of what a database system is. So in a website like this, when someone browses to the page of all of your deals, or maybe all of your photos, or maybe all of your flights, or whatever it is that your website is about, what happens is, right, the computer sends a request over the internet. Hey, server, give me that page. While the server is getting that page ready, the server realizes, oh, in order to fill up this page with information, I got to go pull up that information. Hey, database, give me every deal that we have that is most recent, because we have thousands and thousands of deals that our website has been showing to people already for many months, maybe even many years. I don't want all of them because that's going to be way too much information. We have like hundreds of thousands of them. Give me just the last 20 deals, let's say. I don't know how many we have listed over here. Is it 100 or something? Give me the last 100 deals, the most recent ones, sorted by date of the deals that we have in the database. Okay, says the server, I'm going to the database, and into the database we go, and is rummaging through his different sheets over there. Okay, let's go to the deals database. Let's go to the dates database, to this sheet and that sheet. Let's go to, they're called, in the database system, it's called tables. That's just a fancy term to say that it's like one of these Excel sheets that they have in the database. Okay, let's go to this sheet over here and get all of the prices with the dates. And let's go to the other sheet and let's get all of the deal descriptions with the links, with where the deal came from. And let's combine all that information together. Okay, back to you, server. I have all this information given to you. Great, wonderful, thank you for that. And the server goes ahead and combines all that information, puts it into the HTML that's supposed to go back to the computer in the HTML page. And all that stuff goes back to your computer, which your browser will now, hopefully successfully, try to show you in something like a page like this. So what I'm trying to bring to attention here is that there are 2 different things that we should try to distinguish here, and we're going to learn a little bit about the other one of them. The first one is you're making an HTML page, which has a header and a nav bar and a main section and tags and H1s and paragraphs and links and all that sort of thing. And that's just like maybe the main regular surrounding decoration of your page. But then we get to the data-heavy part of your page, the part where it's like the HTML is a little bit at a loss, because while you're writing up the HTML, you're not even sure entirely what to fill in over here. Do I put this image tag or that image tag? Do I put in this URL link or the other URL link? Do I put in this rank score, thumbs up, thumbs down, or do I put in, which information am I supposed to fill in over here? When it's the main title of the page or the main nav bar or the main buttons, then we know we should put this icon, this tag and that element and the other stuff. But what's the actual data that I fill into my HTML page? That has to come out of the database. The database has to tell us, okay, I have 100 records for you. The first one has this image, this number, this price, this URL, this website that it comes from, and this rank. That's a whole lot of information. Oh, and that's just the first row. The second row has this other image and this other number and the other link, and each one of them has their own distinct information. So we learned a lot about how to make an HTML page with all the HTML structure that it has inside of it. But now let's look a little bit at, imagine if this information that we're trying to fill into the page, imagine all that information is dynamic data that comes out of the database. Each time it's going to be different. One day it's going to be this deal, tomorrow it's going to be a different deal. In 10 minutes from now, it could be an even different deal because maybe something else came into the database. So we have to separate between the page, the HTML, and the data. And at some point, they need to combine, obviously. Once you have the data, and you have, I know I have this row, that row, the other row, I have 100 rows of information. I have 100 records of deals, or 100 records of photos, or 100 records of airline tickets, or whatever it is, right? You have 100 rows of data. You have an HTML page. Now you're going to try to combine them and put all the information that you got from the database, the image and the link and the text and what it should say and what rank it is. You want to put that into the right elements, the right tags of the HTML. But to begin with, if you think about it, if we didn't have all this data and we didn't know what to fill into it, really this page is pretty empty at the base. Let's try to simulate that a little bit. I'm going to go to the entire table of data over here, and I'm going to hide it. Right-click, hide element. And here we go. This is like our basic HTML page. It's just, this is really what is different and unique about the page. The fact that it has one header on top and one title and all that sort of thing, that's really like hefty HTML work over there. You know, you got to type up all the HTML elements for these stuff over here. But then when it comes to the stuff that is data heavy, now I have a bunch of questions. What do I put into the first row? What do I put into the second row? What do I put into the third row? We have to have that data from somewhere. So let me show you guys a little bit of what it might look like to not have this data before. And then when you get the data, you fill that data in to your web page. And usually this is going to happen while your request is running out there in the internet on the server. The server goes to the database and it pulls up that data and it gets which picture it needs to be and which link it needs to be and which number it needs to be, and it puts that into your HTML. But we're going to do it a little bit differently today because we're not on the back end of things yet. We're not on the server side yet. We haven't gone there yet. We're going to simulate a similar idea as if we had all of these records of data on the page, as it's called on the client side, which is in the browser. In our own page, just with HTML and CSS and JavaScript, we are going to try to have the data that we need to fill in, and then actually fill it into the HTML page so that it shows row after row. So we're going to start off as if we don't have any of this information, as if we don't know what to fill into this table. It's empty. It doesn't have any TRs, doesn't have any rows. And then one by one, we're going to get the data and fill it in, fill it in, fill it in by looping through the data that we have, using JavaScript, using some of the lessons that we learned, going through the records one by one, taking a piece of information, putting it into HTML. Take another piece of information, put it into the HTML, and slowly but surely building out your page like this so that your page becomes full of actual data, rows upon rows of records of data. So let's simulate a little bit of what that might look like. Let's see. Okay, let's go over here to let's go to the page that I have still not styled yet, and it's going to look very bland and probably much worse than a lot of you guys' page that you made. Open up this thing right here, and here we go. So here I have, you know, some sort of title and subtitle and some buttons, and then I have a UL with LI. I have an unordered list, or no, this is actually an ordered list, right? Number 1, number 2, number 3. So I have an ordered list of deals here, which in the code, if you guys remember, if we open up the HTML, I fill them in manually, one by one by one. I hard-coded into the HTML what the data is. And this is fine, this works, but you guys understand very clearly that this is not going to work in real life when every day I need to get another piece of information from somewhere else. Today, the deal was all about AAAAA and BBBBB and CCCCC and DDDD, right? Those were the deals of today, but they're not going to stay here forever, right? Tomorrow, it's going to be EFGHIJ or something, right? It's going to be new deals, other deals. However, how does that make sense? When I hard-coded, I saved into the file of HTML, I just saved AAA and BBB and CCC and DDD, and that's the deals right now. So anytime I want to change these deals and I want to show new ones, fresh records that came in today, hot off the press, out of the database, I'm going to have to go into the HTML file and change this text and then make this, oh, okay, so now today it's actually F, and then it's G, and I have to go through each one manually one by one and fill in the records that are supposed to be the new ones for today. And that's going to be very tedious. That's going to take a lot of work. Every single day, you have to go and sit down into your HTML page, fill in what are today's 100 deals. Good luck. Have fun filling in manually every single piece of data of this whole entire page over here, right? It's not going to make a lot of sense. You're going to want to automatically have all of this information in something like a spreadsheet, like an Excel sheet. And you're going to use something like a database to get that information out of these sheets, out of these tables of data. And then automatically, you're going to make a loop that's going to go one by one, bam, 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 give me this record, put it in here. Give me the next record, put it in here. And automatically, your information, without manually having to edit the HTML one by one, it's automatically going to generate and make different each time what the deals are that are showing in your page, rather than this is exactly what I saved into the HTML, and this is exactly what remains forever and ever unless someone changes the HTML file, right? So you guys understand this difference between a static HTML file versus a dynamic page. A static HTML file is whatever you saved into the file, that's what it is. Whatever is going on in this file, whatever the deals are, whatever rows I put into the LIs over here, that's what the page is going to be. If I leave this page here from year 2020 till the year 2040, you're only going to have 4 deals, A, B, C, and D, and that's all you're going to have. And that makes no sense, right? We need new data, fresh data. Every day there's new stuff going on. People keep coming back to your website to check what's the latest. So we have to figure out some way how to do this dynamically so that we fill in the information automatically each time there's new stuff. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to temporarily comment out all of these deals here because they've been put in hard-coded. They are static HTML deals, which are not going to change unless I keep changing the file each time, and that's tedious. So let's refresh the page and see. We're empty now. We just have the static part of our page, just the title and the buttons. That's the regular stuff. And now how we're going to dynamically generate one LI after another with new data, new stuff that comes in on a general basis. So for that sounds like something that's moving and alive and different about the page, right? That's not just the presentation of the page, which is the styling, the CSS. It's not just the structure of the page, which is the HTML. This is like something that makes the page do something. And that's, of course, doing things, doing actions, performing, processing happens in a programming language, such as JavaScript. So I'm going to create a variable in JavaScript, and I'm going to call it a deal, var deal. And what should this be? Should this be a number? Or hopefully you guys are already familiar with creating a variable in JavaScript. So you can either have it be a number, or you can have it be a string, or you can create a variable that contains in it a number with decimal digits, or you can make a variable that contains true or false. And in this case, we're going to create an object. So an object is basically a variable of variables in a way. We also learned about an array in the past where you can have a whole series, a whole sequence of variables one after another. One is at position 0, the next one is at position 1, the next one is at position 2, etc., etc. Maybe some of you guys have already even tested around and played with arrays and looping through arrays and alerting each element in an array one after another after another. So hopefully you guys understand a little bit this concept of you can have an array that has one single thing inside of it, like it has just a number and that's it. Or it could have multiple things inside of it. Each one is by either 0 or 1 or 2 or 3. And what we're going to recap now again, which we learned once before, but it may have been a little fast, so let's recap it again. We're going to learn about an object. An object can contain inside of it a bunch of different variables, each one of them with a name. So kind of similarly to having a var something equals 6 and var something else is hello, you can create a variable this thing equals an object. And inside of this object, you can have more variables, each one with their own name, such as, let me go up here and give this a little more space. Inside of this thing, I want it to have something, and that something will be 6, comma. Comma means I want to put another thing inside of it. I want it to have something too, and that should be hello, okay? And this time I didn't put a comma because I'm not putting anything else inside of it right now. So over here, we have 2 independent variables. This is one single box in the program that contains inside of it the value of 6. You know, you can do something times 2, and that'll be the value of 12, etc., etc. You guys know the drill of how a variable works. And you have this something 2 over here, which has one single thing inside of it, right? The value of this is hello. So you can maybe like alert something 2 plus something 2 again. And it'll print, you know, it'll show a pop-up that says hello, hello, because you took the variable that has the value hello in it, and you told the computer to alert it the same words twice, something 2 plus something 2, right? So that's how the regular variables work. They have one single value inside of them. This thing, though, conveniently named this thing, he started with a curly brace over here, and he ended with another curly brace, and he has inside of him multiple different things. Hey, I remember that. That's kind of like an array, right? My array equals open and closing square brackets. And over there, I could have 6, and I can also have hello, right? This is like a truck that contains inside of it a bunch of different boxes. The first box has in it 6, and the second box has in it hello, right? And so if I go into my array 0, I get the value 6. If I go into my array 1, I get a string of hello. So an object is similar to that, but a little bit different. With an object, the difference is that you don't index your items in the truck by number, such as in this array. The first one, 0, is the value of 6, and the second one, which is at element 1, is the value of hello. In this case, you have to refer to them by a label, by a name. This thing, 0, doesn't make sense at this point because it doesn't have something at 0 or at 1 or at 2. It's not an array, it's an object. An object doesn't have things by this sequence of numbers, 0, 1, 2, 3. That's what an array is for. An object instead has it by a certain label. I put number 6 in the compartment called something. So if I want to get it, I have to get it out of there by doing a string, something, and that is gonna get me this thing over here. Why? Because over here I called it something. Over here I can refer to it as something in a string. Another way how to do it is by saying this thing dot something. Okay, and the value of this is going to be 6. So how is this the same as an array? When I created an array over here, the first one has 6 in it. Over here also, this one has 6 in it. This one, in order to get the value out of this truck, out of this array, I refer to it as my array, square brackets, 0, because it's the first element in the array. However, over here, this first value inside of this thing, it's not really the first, or the second, or the third. It doesn't have like a order about it. It's not like it's in a sequence or in an array of elements that start from 1, 2, 3, going on, you know, starting from 0, 1, 2, 3. That's not how things work in an object. This could very well be down here for the same price. And it's not going to matter. It's not like one was at 0 and the other one was at 1, or one is at 1 and now it's at 0. That doesn't change, actually. By the way, in an array, that's going to change very much. If the first one is 6 and the second one is hello, then you better refer to the 6 by 0, and you better refer to the hello by 1. If you change that around, that changes everything. If the 6 is the second element, then he finds itself at index number 1. And if hello is the first one, then he finds itself at index number 0. So you have to switch that around. Now element 0 is hello, and element 1 is 6. That's how things work in an array, because in an array, the order matters. The order is how you get your variable. The fact that it's number 0 or number 2 or number 1 or number 5 or number 10, that's how you get stuff out of an array. But in an object, the way how things are in the object and how you get them out of the object is by their name. Simple as that. It's not by order. It's not like you know, you're stamped with a number and you're not a human person with a name. You just have a number. You know, that's what identifies you. That's kind of like what arrays are like. But in an object, they value you as a human, and you have a name. You have a label. You are called not just number 0 or number 1 or number 2. You are called whatever it is that your label was given. Like in this case, something 2, something. Or we can say some other thing and give him a number 80 or something, right? So in an object, you can put a bunch of things inside of it. You can put as many as you want. You can put 10 of them, 20 of them. As long as each one of them has a distinct label, a distinct name to them, then you can refer to them afterwards. Such as if you want to get the 6, that is element called something. If you want to get the word hello, that's in the element called something 2. So that's where you can get the hello out of the object. And you can do it either with the square brackets way of doing it, similar to an array, but then you have to use a string to refer to, I want the one that's called something 2, or I want the one that's called something. Or you can do it with the dot notation. The dot notation doesn't always work. For example, if I make an element that's called 0, 1 or something, I don't think you'll be able to do that with the dot. This is a weird labeled thing. Okay, so this one, I think you can only do this. If you want to get that out of your object, you can only do this thing, square brackets, 0, 1. And that'll give you, you know, that whole phrase, whatever it is that we typed before. However, I don't think that you'll be able to do this thing dot 0, 1. That will not work. That's an error in JavaScript. It has to be that the label that you give it starts with an alphabetic letter or an underscore or a dollar symbol, and then you can refer to it with a dot notation. If it starts with a number and possibly a few other conditions, like if it starts with a symbol, right? I think you can make in JavaScript a thing that has any kind of label at all. Dot, dollar, actually that's a valid character. Dot, dash, square bracket, @ symbol, okay? So this is technically a valid object, and you can call it with this kind of name because you're putting it in a string over here. Which you could do the same for all the other things that are inside of this object. You can either just type the word by itself, or you can wrap it inside of a string. It's going to have a similar effect, except that some of them are legal variable names, and you can put them outside of a string, like something, something 2, some other thing. Those are valid variable names, so you can put them outside of a string. However, in this case, you can't have a variable name that starts with a 0. You can't have a variable name that starts with a dot and has all these weird symbols about it. So while it is a valid object, the only way how you can refer to it is with the square bracket with string notation. And you cannot do the dot notation, you know, trying to do something like this thing dot dash. You understand already, this makes no sense because you have all these, oh, hang on. He did this all for me, but he didn't understand what I'm trying to do. Here we go. Right? This is not going to make sense in JavaScript because JavaScript is like, whoa, 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 what are you telling me here? This looks like a bunch of important programming code, like a bracket and a minus symbol and a square bracket to get an element out of an array. And like, what's going on over here? This makes no sense at all. You won't be able to use the dot notation for that, only if it has a valid first character and it doesn't have any of those funny symbols inside of the name of the object. But that's already going into technicalities. Let's say we ignore that for now and we just look at some normal objects with stuff inside of them. This object is in a variable called this thing. This thing has several variables inside of it. One is named this, one is named that, one is named the other, and you can get them out of there using these kinds of techniques. And you can do the same usual things that you do with variables. You can alert them, you know, this thing dot something is going to give you the number 6. You could do this thing dot something times 12 is going to multiply the number 6 by 12 because that's what the value of that variable is, etc., etc., etc. Let me take a quick minute just to look in the chat and see if anyone has any specific questions about arrays and objects, how they're similar, how they're different. Do you understand now a little bit about how an object works in JavaScript and how, you know, a regular variable is different because a regular variable, you put one thing inside of it, whereas in an object, you can put multiple different variables inside of it. Any particular questions about that? Let me just quickly read real quick. Okay. Is an array also naming all inside of it as variables? Kind of. It's just that these variables inside of the array, they don't have a name. They have a number. Give me my array element number 0. Give me my array element number 1. So it's kind of like a variable is a box that has something inside of it. An array is like a truck that contains a lot of boxes. And the way this particular truck works is that every box has a number. Give me box number 0. Give me box number 1. Oh, can you give me the box that has the something inside of it? I'm sorry, I don't know what a something is. I only know numbers. Tell me what your box number is. I'll give you a box number. You want box number 0? You want box number 1, number 10, number 100? That's how an array works. You only refer to it by a number. Where in the array does it hold? Which number element in the array is it located in the array? An object has names to it, which is different. Give me the first. Can you please give me the first variable inside of the object? No, I'm sorry. What's the first? That doesn't even make sense. I don't have like the first or the middleist or the last. That's not how an object works. Nothing in here is in an order. I have everything indexed by their name though. So give me a name of a box inside this truck and I'll bring you that box. Is it labeled something? Is it labeled something too? Is it labeled some other thing? I'll give you that box right away if you just tell me what the label is on that box. Please provide an example of when an array would be the most appropriate and an example when an object would be most appropriate. Very good question. We're going to see an example of that very soon, actually. We're going to have records of deals. A single record has, what does it have? Let's go to the website and see. Where is this? A single deal. Where's our deals? I lost our deals. Topbabydeal.com. A single record has an image. It has a link. It has a text for the link. You know, the title, the description. It has the website where it comes from. It has a ranking, right? So, and that's the same for each and every record. The first record has an image and a link and a title. The second record has an image and a link and a title. The third record has an image, link, title. They all have these same kinds of things. They're all structured in a similar way. That, as you guys will learn, makes sense to put that in a kind of object. Here's a deal. Its image is whatever the link to the image file is. Its link is http www.whateverit is.com/whatever the deal is, okay? And then what's the next thing that's inside of, right? We have a general truck. We have a general container called a deal. Inside of this deal, you have it's this, it's that, and it's the other, right? Like over here, we have a deal. A deal has an image and a link and a title, right? So we're going to make for that an object which has its image and its link and its title. Would it make sense to say, hey, you know the first deal? Give me the first detail about it. Okay, now give me the second detail about it. Okay, now give me the third detail about it. What details are you talking about? What do you mean the first detail and the second detail? Tell me, do you want to have its image? Do you want to have its link? Do you want to have its title? That's what I want to know. So there you see a difference between if it's an array or if it's an object. If you're talking about a record of data, it makes sense to put that in an object because in each of these records, you have its image, its link, its title, right? And that has, you know, descriptive labels about it. I just called them by their name, an image, a link, a title. You know, it's called socks or whatever it is, right? So that doesn't make sense to say, give me the first detail about it, and you're supposed to somehow understand that the first detail is an image, and then, oh, give me the second detail about it. Okay, I guess that's the link. Maybe you'll make a mistake about that. Maybe the first one is this and the second one is that. It's not helpful to know specifically which one is which if you're talking about a single record of data, such as this deal, and then all over again for this deal, and then all over again for the next deal, etc., etc. However, here is some situation where an array does make sense. Here we have a big list of deals. We have the first deal, we have the second deal, we have the third deal, the fourth deal. So let's say if I asked you, can you give me deal, give me the socks deal. Okay, give me the diapers deal. And you, as just a list of deals, you're saying like, well, I don't know which one is which. I just show one after another. There's the first one, there's the second one, there's the third one. You go through it yourself and read and see which one is the diaper one, which one is the shoes one, the socks one. You go find that out. I'm just supposed to contain a bunch of deals. The first one, the second one, the third one, right? That's why the description over here that identifies each individual deal is a number. This is number one, this is number two, this is number three, etc., etc. This is more like an array. I have an array of a bunch of different things. Inside of them, they maybe have different details. Maybe they have a this and a that and the other. Maybe they have an image and a link and a title, whatever it is. But at the grand, bigger picture level, I just have one after another, after another, after another, after another, after another. And at that level, I don't even care if it's like, does it have specifically this image or that image? Is it called this deal or is it called that deal? That doesn't matter. What matters to me is that I have a list of stuff, one after another after another. I have the first one, the second one, the third one. So that is an array, because then I have a list, a bunch of things. It's also a little bit the difference between the UL and the OL, if you guys remember learning about the ordered list, which gives you a list that has numbers in it. You know, here's a recipe. Here's the instructions of what you do with a recipe. First, you have to do this. Then you have to do that. Then you have to do the other. Then the other, right? So there, the order is of importance. And it's not the kind of thing where you have to have the descriptive title or understanding of what it specifically is in order to identify it. You just know it's the first instruction, the second instruction, the third instruction. So an OL is a little bit like an array. However, if you do the other kind of list, which is a unordered list, here you just have, oh, and here he has actually multiple levels, which we're actually going to learn about also with objects. You can have multiple levels of objects inside of objects. Like you guys remember, we learned about having arrays inside of arrays. But let's just see a regular, plain, unordered list. Here's an unordered list. We're on the page learning about unordered lists, and part of the documentation actually demonstrates a use case of an ordered list. Here he's trying to tell us about the type attribute. And he's trying to explain to us, you can have three different types of styles of how your unordered list looks. It could either be a circle, which is like a big, you know, round thing next to each item in the list, or it could be a disk, I think, which is like a smaller circle or something like that, or you can have a square. So over here, as you can see, is it important that first you heard about the circle and then you were told about the disk? And then you know about the square? That doesn't matter to you. Who cares? He could have said square first and then circle and then disk. Or he could have said disk first and then square and then circle. The order doesn't matter over here. What does matter is, what are they? What is its title? What is it about? What is this one? What is that one? What is the other one? So this one is circle. Aha, that's how I identify him. That's how I know how he's distinct from the other ones, because he's a circle and not a disk. And this one is a disk and not a circle. So this is a little bit more like an object. You have a collection of stuff that belong with each other, but it's important to identify them by name. This is its this. This is its that. This is its the other. It doesn't make sense to say this is its first element. This is its middle element. This is its last element. This is the second and the third and the fourth. That doesn't make sense in this kind of situation. So any kind of data or information that you work with, if it's, you can kind of ask yourself and see, how do I refer to it better? How does it feel more comfortable to work with this information? Does it fit better by having that it's in an order that I don't know, I don't care specifically about what it's called, but I want to know where is it positioned in the list? That's more like an array. If you care more about what is its specific detail, is it about this, is it about that, is it about the other, that sounds more like an object kind of a thing. So what I wanted to demonstrate today is we're going to make a single record over here, an object. I'm going to call it a deal. And let's actually mimic this actual deals website over here. And I'm going to inspect the element, and I'm going to get its actual image source. And I'm going to copy that link, and I'm going to put it into here. Image is this. Okay. So now we have the actual URL that you should be putting inside of your IMG, your image HTML tag, if you want to show this particular picture. So it's a link to an image that exists out there on the internet. If you go to that link on the web, on the internet, you'll find a picture, that picture that we're seeing over here on the website. Okay, next, what do we have that's part of each record over here? We have where the link goes to, and then we have the text that's showing inside of the link. I would call the text that's showing inside of the link the title. This is what this deal is called. This deal is called up to 75% off Carter's Kids apparel, shirts, school uniforms, and more. So that's the title of this particular deal. So I'm going to make that this deal has a title of, let me just steal that text right out of the elements of this page over here. Shamelessly just copying it right out and pasting it into our code over here. Let me turn on word wrap so you guys can see the rest of the line. And let's hide this for now so we have a bit more space. He doesn't like that the quotes are on the next line, so I brought it back to this line, and now we should have a normal string. Okay, so we have this deal's image link. We have this deal's title. This is the text that should be showing, you know, that this is what this deal is called. This is what it's going to be displayed by name, by text. And then let's get one more detail. There's more details about it, but for now, just for demonstration purposes, let's get its link. And hopefully by now you guys are familiar with the difference between when you're making a link, when you're making an A tag with a href attribute inside of it, there is a text that goes inside the link. That's what's going to show as the text of the link. But that's not the URL. That's not the link to the address of where we're going to. That could be any text that you want. And what goes into the href attribute, that's the actual link of where you want to go. So you could do something very evil, such as you can write over here, HTTP. This is a sneaky thing that you could do just for tricks, but it's actually very annoying when this happens. Google.com, okay? Right? What's wrong about this link? Hey, google.com. I'm going to click on google.com, and by golly, I'm going to get to google.com, right? Well, wrong. When I click on this, hey, what's this? I went to some sort of other page here with like up to 75% off Carter or something or other. How did that happen? It looks like I'm clicking on a link that says google.com. Well, something's wrong over here. What's going on here? Well, now you understand the difference between the text that's inside of a link and the actual link where a link is going to. So you could make a nasty link like this, which tricks you into thinking you're going to one URL, but in fact, it's going to a different URL. Anyway, but that's just about the text inside of a link. So now let's copy out the link to this deal. And let's put it inside of our JavaScript object. Whoops. Where's this again? Okay, let's try this again. Copy, oh, how about just copy link address? Yeah, that works. Okay, back to our code here. I'm gonna make another property. I have to do a comma because every time that you add another variable inside of the object, you should separate it by a comma. If I don't separate it by a comma, they start saying, oh yeah, link is something else. You get this little red, error because JavaScript is telling you, hey, you didn't finish off with your previous object inside of this, with your previous variable inside of this object, and you're already starting another one. You have to just separate them. So put a comma, make sure you have a comma between each one. And now we're making another, what's also called a property. Inside of an object, you have properties. It basically means the variable that's inside of your deal variable. And we can do this either by just writing the word link, or if we want, we can put it inside of quotes. Either of those would work, as we learned about earlier. And I'm going to, you do have to have the colon, which means the contents, the value. It's a little bit, I guess, like the equals the equal symbol. Like when you create a variable and you say var x equals 9. So when you create an object, you're kind of saying this variable equals this. And that variable equals, that's what the colon is. The colon is like that's going to be equals whatever I put inside of it. And now I'm going to put inside of it the actual link to the deal. So we have an object here that has 3 variables inside of it. And it looks a little bit confusing with word wrap on. So let me actually turn word wrap off. Okay, now it looks a little bit straight and clearer. Here is a deal object. Inside of the deal object, we have 3 variables, or as it's called, 3 properties. The first property, or actually I shouldn't say the first, right? Because order doesn't matter. Don't forget. We're in the object here. The image could be at the beginning, it could be at the middle, it could be at the end. It doesn't matter. The order is not a thing about it. What does matter is that it's called image. And the value of that image variable or that image property is a string, and this string is a link to an image. Next, we have another property, another variable called title, and its value is this string over here. And finally, we have this other property, which we decided to wrap with quotes just because we can. It happens to be the slightly more correct way to write this kind of object, as you guys will learn when you learn about JSON, which is pretty similar to what we're looking at here right now, which is a JavaScript object. So to use the proper JavaScript object notation, it's slightly better to use the quotes. But you can even do it without the quotes when you're writing JavaScript. Anyway, the value of this variable is a string, which is the link to the actual deal. Okay, so now we have an object, and inside of the object, we have these properties. Let's play around with this a little bit in the console. I'm going to copy out all of this stuff, and I'm going to open up a console. And let's see what we can do with this object. Scroll in a little bit. Hopefully you guys can see. All right, so I created an object called deal, and I put inside of the deal object several different things. I'm pressing enter, and there we go. So, dear JavaScript, when I create a variable like var x equals 8, and then I type x, you tell me what's inside of x, right? And I can do x times 5 and whatever, right? So tell me, JavaScript, what is inside deal? Show me what deal is. Show me what's the deal. And here we go. This is what JavaScript shows me. You have an object that starts with an opening brace and ends with a closing brace. It looks a little bit messy over here, so I'll ask you guys to ignore this top part over here. Just ignore that as if that doesn't exist. Maybe I'll scroll it out of view. No, I can't scroll it out of view. Anyway, ignore this top part. Just look over here. Over here we have the 3 variables, image, link, and title. Those are inside of the variable deal. So this is cool. Until now, we used to do variables that only have like one thing inside of them, like a number or a string. And now we have this new kind of variable called an object, which contains in it multiple different things, multiple different details. Now, let's see. Can I get the image? Can I get the link? Can I do something with it? Like, can I alert it or something like that? Sure. The way to do that is to say deal, opening square brackets, and this Chrome browser is trying to be very helpful and preemptive, and it's asking me, oh yeah, I know, you want to get the image, or you want to get to this or to that, so it's like trying to fill in for me a bunch of things over here. But I want to go take it slowly, so I'm going to write each character by character, square brackets, quote, and then let's get the image link. And the browser is still very eager and just showing me everything in advance before I even finish typing it, but you get the idea. Inside of the deal object, we have a variable image. We could have also very well made a variable called image or image1 or whatever you want to call it, and given it that same string, and that would be kind of its own independent variable that has a value inside of it, and you can alert that variable image1, and it shows you an alert, which we're not seeing now because I full screened this. Here we go. Let's dismiss this alert and go back to the console over here. But now, instead of having just a plain old variable that has a string inside of it, we have an object, and the object has a property, and in the property is a string. So I can alert deal, square bracket, quote, image, closing quote, closing bracket, and finally close the parentheses from calling the alert function. And this will have the same effect. because it's a variable inside of the deal object. You can also do that by typing deal.image, and that's also going to refer to that specific property. So we see that this works. Just like you created a variable x and you put a certain number value inside of it, then the same thing, you create a variable deal and you put a bunch of different variables inside of that variable, and you can refer to it with the square brackets or with the dot. So now that that works, I have an object that's a deal. Hey, that's very cool. What if I have a second deal? Okay, so let's copy this and let's write, okay, I'm getting an error over here because, well, it's actually not showing me the error, but I created a variable deal and now I'm creating a variable deal again. What that's going to do is that's going to kind of delete the first deal and that one's going to disappear. So I have to call this by a different name. This one is going to be called deal 1, and this one is going to be called deal 2. Deal 1 is that one that has this image and it's called this title and that has this link to go to the deal. But the second one, we want to put in with other information, right? We don't want all the deals to be exactly the same. So let's go to our second deal and get its image link. Copy link address. And that's your correct link, not the same one as the first. And what's the second guy's title? Let's go and get that. How do I get this? A little too zoomed in over here. Here we go. Get me the text that's inside of this link, please. And fill it into the title over here. That's our second deal. And I need to put it on the same line. Here we go. And finally, we don't want the link to be the same link as before, so please give me the actual link that goes to the deal. Oh man, that always happens. Just copy link address. Okay. Okay, so now we have two different deals. Hooray, we have one object that has these bunch of details inside of it and a second object that has those different details inside of it. Let's test this out in the console for a second. Here we go, new tab. Where is your console, please? Okay, I create variable deal1 and I give it these properties inside of it. I create variable deal2 and I put those other properties inside of it, all between the opening and closing braces, all separated with a comma between each one, and all having a colon after the name of the variable. So it's kind of like a variable of variables, basically is what an object is. An object is a variable that contains inside of it a bunch of other variables. And now I'm pressing enter. So JavaScript, what's deal1? Oh, cool. You have an object that has three things inside of it. Cool. What's deal1's image? That string. Tell me what's deal2's image. Oh, it's a different string. Deal1 image has this value. Deal2 image has that value. Cool. So we have two different objects, each with their own distinct variables inside of them. And you can start seeing how this is useful when you have a bunch of data, like 1 deal, 2 deals, 3 deals, 4 deals, etc., going on and on and on, each one containing inside of him their own specifics about that specific deal. That could be very useful when processing data and when constructing a page like this. I do have to step out, though, just momentarily. I will be right back. Label, can you please check in? Are you there?
Yeah, I am here.
Oh, you're there. Excellent. Okay. Shkoyach, I will be back momentarily to continue.
Okay. So first of all, feel free to ask your questions in the chat or in the Q&A. I can continue to do a little bit of debugging like we did last week to show you some of the actual stuff on Top Baby Deal. Or we can do similar on any site. I can show you some interesting things on various sites that you work with on a day-to-day basis. If that's interesting, we can go back to the Google example that we started last week. So let's, all right, leave that. Let's just see if I have the ability to share my screen. I do. Okay, perfect. All right, so give me 1 second here. Let me get myself up and running. Share screen, continue, and 1 second here, sorry. And whoops, sharing the wrong one. No, I'm not. All right. Okay, so here we have Top Baby Deal open. I'm not sure why this isn't. Let's open the chat. All right, so last week I showed you some of the debugging here, and I got some feedback that this was helpful. So I'm going to do it a little bit more now. I'm also going to teach you about a nice little concept in programming that we haven't really gotten to yet in JavaScript, but it's nice to know in general. So I had an issue, I'm going to start with that, and it's just a good point to think about when you're building your code. So I had an issue last week. Please just someone say you can hear me. Just say yes if you can hear me well. Thanks. I had an issue last week with the deals that only one of the deal sites was working. I think it was just hip2save was working. And I hadn't really touched this code in a while. I had basically just built it, and since I think I pushed the code in January, I could double check. It was just there, it was working. Anyway, it turns out one of these sites made a change to their page. Either way, it stopped, it created some kind of error. Now the way it works in programming is there's a concept called an exception or an error. And what happens is when there's an error, the program will basically what's called bubble up that error and see if anyone wants to handle that error. So let's say you're expecting an error. Let's say you're loading this page and it's possible that the database with these deals will not be available. So what happens if it's not available? So either the whole program could just crash and nothing's going to be there, or you could add what's called a try catch, and you can do this in JavaScript as well. If I can get rid of that for a second. Try catch JavaScript. So this is just a good concept to know about. So let's use an example here. Let's go to REPL.it and let's start coding, and we want to code in JavaScript. And here we go. So let's do this. All right, so I'm going to create a var I equals 10, and then I'm going to say try I plus plus, and then console.log I, and then I'm going to say j plus plus. Now what do you think is going to happen here? So first I'm going to remove the catch, and I'm going to remove the try. And let's go ahead and run it. Oh, now look what happened. We had 11, it printed 11, so I had 10, I incremented, and then it says j, whoa, whoa, whoa. J is not defined. How can you just try and increment j when j is not defined? So that's called an error. So now what's going to happen is if there's any sort of error in my application, it's just going to crash the application. In other words, programming is built off something called threads, and the threads run and they process your application. But if there's an issue, the program's going to say, stop, kill the thread. So in this case, as soon as it got to j++, it killed the thread. Now, I++ still worked, and it printed because it happened before J++. So now, I'm going to go ahead and do like that, J++, and now let's see if we can print. Oh, now we got nothing. J is not defined, so it stopped the whole progression of the application. So I++ didn't run, console.log I didn't run either. But what happens if I say, you know what, maybe I'm expecting that there may be an error. Maybe J is referenced in a file that may have been added, may have not been added. But let's say I'm expecting that there may be some kind of error. So I'm going to say J++ here, but otherwise, console.log the error. But then continue and do this. So you can see here, it just printed the error. And you can even just do like this, plus a string if you want to make it into a string. And then I'll just make it into a string, whatever. But my point is, what I did was I caught the error, and that allows the rest of the program to run. Now, why am I teaching you about this? Because in programming, sometimes there will be errors, and you'll have to, let's just go to any website. Go to espn.com for you sports fans out there, and let's go in here. Boom! Just on this site, there's all sorts of errors, right? You see that? Uncaught syntax error, unexpected identifiers, all sorts of errors. But how does the rest of the site run? Because those errors are siloed to some degree. They're contained in either some kind of try-catch, or they're in some kind of separate script or whatever. So this is a very important concept in programming, which is sometimes referred to as modularization, to make your code modular, or to basically silo certain parts of your code. So what I did was, to fix the issue, I didn't really have time for a top baby deal. I didn't really have time to go ahead and completely fix the issue. How do I get rid of this tab? Doesn't want to let me click out of this. The zoom control thing is in the way. How do I get rid of it? Would be nice if there was just an easy way to hide it. Hide video panel. No, not that. Hide floating meeting controls. There you go. So now back to top baby deal. Since a few weeks here, let's see if I can go far back enough where you'll only see the hip2 save deals. What was that? June 17th is just a few days ago. If I were to open up the database, which I think I need to reset up on my computer, you would see that for a good few days, there were only deals from hip2 save. And the way I fixed it was just to contain the code for each one of these sites in a way where there's a try-catch, and if there's an error, I catch the error. So I think that's a good concept to think about. I don't know if Yisrael talked about it yet, but if there are errors in your code, or for whatever reason you think there might be an error, you don't want to go crazy with it, but it's a good tool to know about, that you can actually catch errors. Anyway, if that was helpful, please say helpful, and if you want me to go on this concept, feel free. All right, Shane D asked, when you name your variable title, how does the computer understand we're talking about the actual title? When you name your variable title, how does the computer understand we're talking about the actual title? So I assume you mean in Yisrael's example where he's constructing an object with title and link and whatever, and the idea is, I think he's not done yet, but what he's going to do is he's going to then loop through that array of objects and paste it onto the page. So hopefully Yisrael will get to that answer as he finishes. All right, so let me see if we debugged last week all of the JavaScript here. So we went through the deal link click. I think that was the one that we maybe didn't really do much of. I think we went through most of these APIs. All right, so I could take you just through some more debugging. If there's no specific questions, let me see if there's anything in the Q&A. nothing in the Q&A. So I'll continue along these lines. I got some feedback that this is helpful. All right, then we'll go on. I'll just go. I work at a company called protege.com, and basically there's various sites. One of them is called swagbooks.com, another one of them is called mypoints.com, etc. So I'm going to show you some examples where I can debug some things that I work with on a day-to-day basis until Yisrael gets back. And I'll give you an example. Let's say...
I am back actually, but I am enjoying watching.
Okay.
So why don't you go ahead?
Oh, okay. This is not that important. I don't have a very good specific example. I had something I was debugging at work today that I was going to show.
Cool. Okay.
But we can continue it next week.
Okay.
But there was one question. If you go back to the question from Shane D, when you name your variable title, how does the computer understand we're talking about the actual title?
Good point. Oh, yeah, we're going to get to that. Good question.
So
I'll get to that in a few minutes. Label, I wanted to ask you real quick. We had a little machalikas in the chat about whether this is actually the second to the last class or there's actually more. Was it supposed to be 14 classes or 16 classes? Are we currently in the 13th? Or are we in the 4th? We got a little lost with the numbers there. Do you know for sure where we're holding?
I don't know for sure. I guess we'll sync up with Rabbi Wordy to confirm, and we'll let everyone know in the chat.
Okay, fine, cool. All right, fine. All right, so yeah, that was a very good question, Shane D. And your question, I guess, rephrased. Let me just quickly share back my screen over here. I think what you're asking is, which is what we're going to get into, is now that I have a nice variable here, deal 1 and deal 2 and that sort of stuff, how do I translate this into the web page? Where over here, this string over here should become the source title of the HTML image tag of that image that I want to put in that item over there. And this string, that's the variable that's called title, which, by the way, I can call it whatever you want. I can call it RRRR. I can call it anything, right? This is just a name for a variable over here. But how do I take the value of that variable, whatever it's called, inside of this object and put it into the correct HTML elements in the page so that from this object becomes this piece of the page? So yes, we're going to get to that shortly. Hopefully we'll have enough time to cover this today in this class. So let's proceed to discuss this. I made deal 1 over here, which has the first deal. I made deal 2, which has the second deal. And as you can figure, I can go on like this a little further. I can make var deal 3. And I'm going to put inside of this object the image for the third deal, which I won't bother right now just to save some time. I'm just going to say the image link is ... This one is going to be a title. We'll just call it the title. And then the last one is the link, which we'll just say is whatever the URL might be. And let's just go through a few details here to make sure. On the one hand, this looks very uniform, meaning we have 3 objects. Both are called pretty similarly the same name, a little bit different. This is called deal 1. This is called deal 2, deal 3, right? So they all start with the word deal. And inside of them, they have pretty uniform variables inside of them. Inside of deal 1, we have image. Inside of deal 2, we have image. Inside of deal 3, we have image. So just to be clear, when you create objects in JavaScript, you can create whatever you want. You don't have to follow some specific system or rule or anything. You can create, the first one is called XXX3, and this thing is called blah, blah, blah. And this one you can call whatever you want. An image could be called image111, and this one could be called source instead of image, because that you can call them whatever you want. Objects are free for all. You can create any object called any name containing any variables inside of it. Just like you can create any variable. You can create var x. You can create a var y. You can create a var it 70, whatever, a whole bunch, right? You can create any variable and put anything inside of it. Same as with objects. Objects are useful, cool thing that you have in JavaScript, which you can do whatever you want with, however you want with. In this particular case, I'm calling them similar names and giving them similar kinds of properties, similar variables inside of them to demonstrate a certain use case that you might do to have data inside of your website and use this data to fill up the page with information. So it's going to be useful that the first one is called image, and by the second one, it's also called image, and by the third one, it's also called image. That's convenient. That's just useful because it helps describe how to get this variable out of the object record and the next record and the next record. Oh, they all have a thing called image. That's convenient. Then I always know how to get that particular variable out of that particular object because I can always do dot image or square brackets with a string image, and that'll give me the link to the image of that particular record. So it's a convenience thing, but really objects, you can do whatever you want, however you want to do. You can have hundreds and hundreds of variables inside of an object and so on and so forth. But right now we're demonstrating what would it be to have data inside of JavaScript and filling up this data inside of your page. So as you guys noticed, we're making variable after variable after variable over here, and it's starting to become a bit of a pattern. Like, this is going to become difficult to keep having to keep track of deal 1 and deal 2 and deal 3, deal 4, deal 5, deal 100, deal maybe 10,000 on some web pages. This looks like the kind of thing that happens on a sequence, that there's a first one and a second one and a third one, and there keeps on being one after another after another after another, almost like they all belong together in one big row, almost like they're a sequence of an array of stuff. Hey, maybe this is a useful situation to use an array because I have one object that has certain details and variables inside of it. I have another object that also has different details and variables inside of it, and another object that has variables inside of it. And I need to keep them all kind of in a place where they belong together. Like I have a truck with a lot of deals inside of it. And each deal has its appearance, its image of how it looks, and it has its name of what the title is, of what this deal is. And I have its price, and I have how to go to that particular link in the store to get it. And I have a truckload of these. And I don't want to have to kind of carry each one on its own and say, oh, this is the first deal. Okay, now this is the second deal. Okay, now this is the third deal. It's going to be annoying to deal with each one as its own individual box. It would be convenient, however, to have them all lumped together in one big truck in an array of deals. It would be cool to create an array. The first element is the first deal. The second element is the second deal, and so on and so forth. So let's review real quickly again about arrays. An array is something like this. Var my array equals opening and closing square brackets. I can do something like my array dot push. Push means add something onto the array. So I can put like a number 3, and then this array is as good as if I put inside of it a number 3 at location 0. And then I can do also, you know, push another number, and I can push a string. And now it's as good as if I created an array that has element 0 has a value 3, element 1 has this number, and element 3 has that string, whatever. I'm not going to bother copying it now, right? So this is how an array works. You can go inside of the array by saying, give me the one that's at position number 0, and that's going to give you a number 3, because that's the first element that we pushed onto the array. Or without all the pushing, that's the first one that I created inside of the array, etc., etc., right? So now we're going to make an array that contains inside of it not numbers, not strings, not booleans, not other arrays, but rather arrays of objects. So I'm going to make the first element of this array to be an opening and closing brace. And inside of this opening and closing brace is an object that can contain other objects. It could contain inside of it, let's say, something that has a value of 40, comma, something else that has a value of 3. So now I have an array whose 0th element is an object. And inside of that object, there are 2 variables. Something has 40 and something, oh, these are both called something. That's not going to be good. One is going to overwrite the other one. This is going to call something 2. Something 2 has a value of 3. Okay. So that's very cool that we can put objects inside of arrays. So imagine a big shipping container that you can put inside of it smaller containers, inside of which you could put boxes of stuff. That's what this is. We have an array that has element 0, element 1, element 2. And it happens to be, in this case, element 0 is another container inside of which it has other variables. This variable and that variable and the other variable. And a neat way how programmers like to space out the typing of this kind of code so that it's a bit clearer what's going on here. There's like an opening square bracket and an opening squiggly bracket. It's becoming a little bit confusing to see what's going on here. So they actually like to space it out on multiple different lines. I'm going to have the opening square brackets here and the closing square brackets there. So it kind of opens here and wraps up over here, and everything inside kind of belongs inside of the array. Anything that is separated by a comma is going to be on another line. You see the array has the first thing, and then it has a second thing, and then it has a third thing. This makes it a little bit more apparent as to what's inside of this array. And anytime you have another array or an object, you're also going to do the same thing. Here's where the object opens. Here's all the stuff that's inside of the object. And here's where the object closes. And this kind of gives a little bit more of a mental image, kind of a little bit like tags in HTML, where if you guys remember, if you space them out correctly, it becomes apparent what's inside of where, what's at the beginning ground floor, and then what's deeper inside of it, and what's even deeper inside of that, right? So the same way over here, if I have an array that contains an object, that contains variables inside of it, I'm going to space them out in this kind of way so that it's pretty clear and apparent what is inside of where and what contains what. In this case, it looks like I have an array. Element 0 is here, element 1 is 2, element 3 is here, and each one of them you can refer out of the array as we demonstrated before. So instead of having deal 1, deal 2, deal 3, instead I'm going to make an array. I'm not going to give them, each one of them, distinct names, deal 1, deal 2, deal 3, deal 75, and having to keep track of all that. I'm just going to line them up inside of an array. Automatically, the first one is going to be element 0. The next one is going to be element 1. The next one is going to be element 2. So let's copy all of these objects without even their variable names and put them inside of our array over here. Here's the first one, comma. And let's cut this one out from here and put it in second place. Second deal and comma. And take out the third deal and put it in third place over here with no comma because I don't have any more happening in here. Let's add an extra space between them just to make it slightly clearer. So all of our 3 variables that we used to have over here that we had 3 different variable names, deal 1, deal 2, deal 3. Right now we have no variable names necessary. I emptied them out. Let's delete them. Instead, I created an array. I'm going to call this array deals because inside of this array, I'm trying to keep a bunch of deals. Of course, in JavaScript, you can do whatever you want. You can put inside of here a true, comma, and a number, and a false. You know, you can do whatever you want over here because it's a free-for-all. You can put anything you want inside of an array. You can put anything you want inside of an object too. You know, you can mess up this deal and say, hey, you know what? Just for fun, let's put something else in here and a number. And you can do whatever you want with objects and with arrays. It happens to be that we're going to try to behave here and only have deals inside of this array. So I'm going to delete all of these other random things inside of this array. Automatically, the first one up here, who happens to be index number 0, he's going to be an object. And inside of that object, there's going to be image and title and link. And then this is element number 1. And he also has image and title and link. And then we have another thing, number 2, image and title and link. Let's see some examples of how we might refer to this. In fact, if anyone wants to tell me how to type this, let's say if I want to get deal number 0's title. How do I get deals number 0's title? Any suggestions? How do I refer into this array? Let's say if I want to alert it, you know, what do I put inside of this alert here so that it's going to show deal number 0 of the array, and inside of that object, I want to get its title. Let's take the first example over here. My array 0 title. Okay, very cool. Oops, I keep forgetting that I can't copy it out of here, so I'm going to try to type it. My array element 0. So that goes inside of this array over here. Well, actually, it doesn't go inside of this array over here because this array is not called my array. It's called deals. But that's fine. Let me fix that for you. Deals 0. So inside of this array, it has multiple elements. This is the first element separated by that comma over there. So the first element inside of this array is number 0. And inside of that, we have an object. And I want to go inside of that object and get its title, as Avremel has shown us, with another opening and closing square brackets, and inside of that a string which has the word title. And that will show us the title of deal number 0. Or will it? Let's try it out. Never trust a developer. Test it yourself. That's a rule for life. Let's go over here to the console. I am creating an array called deals. Inside of the deals, I put 3 different variables. Each of those variables is a variable of variables, actually, inside of which there is one variable and another one and another one. And the next one also has a something and a something else and another something, etc., etc. And then I'm going to keep this for last. Let's play around with this object a little bit. Hey, deals, what's inside of you? Well, deals is an array. So it's showing me I have 3 things inside of me. Number 0, number 1, and number 2, because I'm an array. Deals is an array, and so it doesn't have any images, it doesn't have any links, it doesn't have any titles. All it knows is I'm an array. You want to put something else inside of me, you can push it on me. You want to pop something off of me, you can do .pop. That's what an array is. You can add some more things in it, remove some things in it, you can refer to elements inside of it. Hey, what's deals number 0? Well, here's the first thing that wasn't deals array. What's deals number 2? Well, that's the last one that was by the end. What about deals number 3? Undefined. I don't have any more than 0, 1, and 2 elements inside of me, so deals 3 doesn't make sense for me. I don't have that. Cool, okay. So if I want to go into deals number 0, and I want to get its title, following what someone typed in chat, we're going to do title, quote, closing square brackets, and I'm going to get this string. If I want to alert it, I'm going to alert deals 0 title, and hopefully, if everything works well, and if I can find the window, it's going to show us. Here we go. Here's the pop-up that's showing us the actual text that was in that variable. Going back to the console over here. Deals number 1. What is your image? And this time I'm using the dot notation, because I could either do this by doing square brackets, string, whoops, square brackets, string, string, square brackets, or I can do dot image, and that's going to give me also the same link that's inside over there. So JavaScript went inside of the deals array, and inside of the deals array, it looked up for element number 1, which was the second item in its list. And inside of there, it was in an object. I'm in another container here. Where do I go now? Well, go to the thing called image. Okay, so going inside of image, actually, I think we can browse inside of the deals thing like that way, and we can simulate what it looks like to do deals 0.image. Let's simulate what that looks like. Let's do deals over here. Okay, so when I say deals, I get the whole entire array. When I say deals 0, it's like I'm doing this. Open up this array, go to deals number 0, and click the little arrow to open that one. I'm not opening number 1 or number 2, I open number 0. That's what it's like when you say deals 0. I went into the first item that's in this array. Now that we're in the first item in that array, I can go even further deeper in, because now we have several different choices. Do you want this property? You know, do you want this variable, that variable, the other variable? Which one do you want? So I can go inside of deals number 0. Inside of that, I want to get the image. And that's like me going on this thing over here and copying, you know, this string and saying, here, this is the value that I got you out of that particular object. So this is a little bit of a taste of a feel of what we're making over here. We're making an array. Inside of the array are several records of data. or in this case, it's basically just JavaScript objects. Inside of those objects are a bunch of useful information. Each one of them represents another record of the deals that you're trying to sell on your site. And now we have an array that has objects inside of it. And now, the final point, hopefully, that we can get to, if we have jQuery, do we? Yes, we have jQuery, is how do I take this data and put it inside of the page? Now that we went to the page and we emptied out all of the stuff over there, and it's empty, the whole OL is empty, it doesn't have a single LI, but I have all this data, all this information. How do I magically put all this information inside there? Because today I'm going to have this data, tomorrow I'm going to have different data. This is what I was saying earlier, that we're simulating as if we're going to a database. In the real deal, I would show you guys, maybe we still might have some time in the next class or whenever it might be, to show you guys how you send a request to the server to say, hey, server, give me the latest records that you have in your database. I want to have those images and titles and links, and hand them over to me so I can put them inside of the page. And you would get all that information. And if you wanted to, one of the options of how you can do that is you can get it back to yourself in exactly like this, in a JavaScript object. You can ask the server, hey, server, give me a JavaScript array that has inside of it a bunch of JavaScript objects, each object having inside of it the image and the title and whatever else details we need of each individual deal. And then we can work with that inside of the page. So right now we're kind of pretending as if we made that entire internet request, we did the whole job, we did the whole work, and now we, thank God, we got back from the server what we needed. We have here, Mazel Tov, we have an array that has inside of it the data that we want to work with. Again, this is really a little bit more advanced. We have to learn server side, how you make an HTTP request using AJAX to request something from the server, to get that data from the server. But right now, let's pretend we did all that and we got this from the server. We got this information. We got an array that has inside of it, here are the deals. Here are the 3 deals for today. Now I have this in the web page, and I want to fill this up inside of the HTML. What do I do? So, any suggestions? What can I do if I have an array of deals, and I want to go through them one by one, and for each one, I want to try to do something with it to put it into the page. What is the thing called when I have an array of stuff? I have one, and I have another one, and I have another one, and I want to go through each one by one, and I want to do something with them. Any ideas? What do we do to go through an array one by one? Excellent answer from Avremel again. It is a for loop. Avremel, I hope you're not way too ahead of everyone else. And that only you're copying what's happening here and no one else is following. I really hope that everyone else is also following along with what's happening here. So yes, when you have an array, like we did the exercise yesterday and a few days ago about going through a string one by one and then making it reversed, or trying to go through each letter in the string and making them capitalized, we have this idea of a loop. You loop through each item in the array one by one, and you do something magic to them. So let's make a for loop. And here we go with the phone calls again. And I should probably turn off the ringer so we can concentrate. All right, sorry about that. Let's use the Visual Studio Code Magic for loop that's already filled out for me. I'm going to write, yeah, let's call it index. Why not? Usually I call it I, but for now, why not? Let's call it index. Index starts at 0. Index is less than deals length. Index plus plus. And finally, let's say deal, not with an S, but a single deal, equals deals index. So this has the effect, as we learned with loops, that we're going to create a variable that starts at 0 and is going to count up from 0 to 1 to 2 to 3, etc. How far should it go? When should it stop? Make sure that the index that we're counting is less than the amount of objects that are in the array. If the array has 0, 1, 2, that means it has 3 objects. Make sure that you don't count anywhere further past 2. So now that we have a variable that first is going to be 0, and then it's going to be 1, and then it's going to be 2, and then it's going to stop. So I want to use that variable to go through my array, first to go to the 0th element, and then to go to the 1th element, and then to go to the 2th element, if we can express it that way, and get that thing out of the array. So in the first round, we're going to be getting this object. In the second round, we're going to be getting this object. The next round, we're going to get this object. Isn't that convenient? I have an array of data that we got from the internet, and I want to go through all of this data, all of these records one by one. And now I have a for loop to go through them, and it's going to give me each one of them in order, and I can do with each one something magic, and the program is going to automatically repeat whatever I do with one of them, it's going to repeat it for all the rest of them. Very cool, very convenient. So now I have a deal object. This deal object is going to be, maybe this. Let's just take this for an example. I'm going to comment it out just so that we have a local copy of what the object looks like. I have an object that has inside of it image and title and link. So that's going to be something like deal image, right? In that particular time, I created a variable here. Let's use var over here instead of const. You guys can look up about const later and more advanced JavaScript stuff, ES6 and all that, the fancy new JavaScript version. But for now, let's just say var deal. I'm creating a new box temporarily here in my loop. And I want to put inside of it whatever comes out of the deals array at this particular point. So it's kind of like we're taking this object and we're copying it into this variable called deal. Deal is now going to have that first one. And in the second round, it's going to have this one. And in the third round, it's going to have this one. Instead of using this kind of, clunky way of getting that object, I'm taking that object out of the array and I'm putting it into this variable deal. That's convenient. I can even go a step further and say, hey, I don't want to have to bother typing D-E-A-L each time. So I'm going to create another variable D. And that D is going to be deal, okay? So it's just basically shortening it by a few more letters, but it's the same kind of thing. Instead of having to type deals, brackets, index, I can now just say deal, and that's going to give me that same object. Or instead of typing deal, I can just type D, and it's going to give me that same object. So this is just to express that you could really just use deals, brackets, index. That's going to give you that whole object that we're getting. Or you can make a convenient variable locally that's like, OK, now I just have to type the word deal, and that's going to give me already out of the whole array, whichever specific index one I'm trying to get to. I just called it deal, and that's it. That's convenient for me. Deal is now an object. Deal is an object that contains in it image and title and link. So just as we can do deals, that particular number dot image, and that's going to give me that string with the whole link for the image, I can do deal dot image. That's the same object, and it's also going to give me that string with the whole URL for the image. And I can do deal dot title, and I can do deal dot link, and it's going to have those variables inside of the variable. Now we need to do some jQuery magic. jQuery, please help us in taking these pieces of information and putting it inside of our page's OL. How do we find this OL? Well, let's get a CSS selector. If I want to, I can just give this an ID and say, hey, you have an ID of the list. So I can just get ID list, or I can get a little fancier and say, I don't want to add an ID into there. It really is the best idea to put an ID or a class in there. But in this case, just to be cool, we're just going to say body, descendant, main, descendant, OL. Why not? Just for fun. So jQuery, calling the jQuery function, or if we want to be shorthand, we can just say $symbol. Please grab me this following element, body, descendant, main, descendant, actually not descendant, this means child. This just with plain space means descendant, but with this angle, it means immediate child. Make sure you find the main that's directly under body. If there's a main somewhere else, don't get me that one. Get me the main that's directly under body, and get me the OL that's directly under main. So body directly under that main, directly under that OL. Please add some more HTML. And this is where jQuery, this is one of the main cool parts about jQuery, is that even if your page to start off is lacking a bunch of HTML, it's missing a whole bunch of LIs over here, it doesn't have that HTML, jQuery, JavaScript can put a bunch of HTML into your page. Whatever you didn't type beforehand, whatever elements and LIs and ULs and links and paragraphs, whatever you didn't type into your HTML, you can do later with JavaScript and with jQuery. You can fill in a whole bunch of stuff. You can recreate your whole entire page, actually. You can fill up all the HTML from scratch in jQuery, with JavaScript. So let's try to do that now. I'm going to look up how do I add elements with jQuery. jQuery add HTML into the page. How do I do that? They're telling me about a function called append. And I could look into the documentation, and they can show me a bunch of different examples, .append, and he shows me here. If you have this page with this kind of HTML, and then you select this element, and you append some HTML p tag inside of there as a string, that is going to have the effect of adding that p inside of there. You see, beforehand, it didn't have that in there. But now, suddenly, it has this p test and this other p test over here because you appended this HTML string inside of the page. Beforehand, it didn't have that HTML. Now, it has that HTML thanks to jQuery with JavaScript putting it in there. And there's a few other ways how to do that. You can do just straight up .html. That just fills in a whole bunch of HTML somewhere, even if it's not just immediately appended inside of something, but rather just replace the entire content of what's inside of an element. You guys can look this up eventually later. But let's use the append technique. jQuery, get me this element in the page, which is over here. Okay, says jQuery, I got it right here. What would you like me to do with it? .append, call the append function, which is going to not delete anything else that's inside of that element, but it's going to append something at the end of it. If there's other things inside of it, it's going to leave all that alone, and it's going to just add this at the end. Kind of like push with an array, if you guys remember. If you do that push in an array, it keeps whatever else was inside of that array, and it just adds another thing at the end. The same thing does append with your web page with HTML. Okay, says jQuery, I can append stuff inside of there. What would you like me to append in there? Well, we have a few different things that we can do here. Let's do with one technique of just writing out a string of HTML. I'm going to use the backticks string, which is another kind of string. Until now, we learned about a string with the opening and closing double quotes, with text that you write inside of it. You can do the opening and closing single quotes with stuff that you write inside of it. And now we're going to start using the open and closing backticks. Backticks is a weird key on your keyboard. It's usually the one that's all the way up to the left on your keyboard where you have all your numbers. Right to the left of the first number, number 1, you have over there a weird key that has like this squiggly symbol. It's called a tilde or something like that. And it also has the backtick symbol. I think if you just press it regular, it's backtick. And if you do shift that key, then it's the tilde. But in this case, we're going to use the backtick. When you use a string, when you type a string with backticks and you write text inside of it, you have a few cool features. The first cool feature is that you can do it on multiple different lines. When you write a string with quotes, oh, that actually also works with multiple lines. Or does it? No, it doesn't. You can't write a string like var my string equals something that goes on multiple lines. You can't do that with double quotes. I don't think you can do that with single quotes either. But you can do that with backticks. That allows you to make multiple lines inside of a string. And it's going to make it as if you did like \n or whatever the escape character is to make a carriage return, a next line. So instead of having to type \n, you can just do backticks, and the enter key will already be in there. Another cool thing is that you can put variables inside here. Let's say if you made a variable x equals 10, and you want to write 10 inside of here, right? How did we used to do this? In order to put a variable inside of a string, you had to do something like my string equals hello, and then you had to do the plus symbol, and then you have to add the x, plus symbol, and then you have the x. So you have hello, and then you attach to that the number 10 that came out of the variable x. But instead of closing the string and doing a plus, and then maybe opening another string, and then another plus, and then something else, instead of doing all these pluses and quotes, with the backtick string, you can do something that's called variable interpolation, which is basically $, opening and closing braces, and inside of here, you can put the variable x. So you don't have to keep wrapping this in weird quotes and having pluses before and after and all that sort of thing. You can just do $, opening and closing squiggly braces, and inside of there you can put a variable, and it's going to squish it inside with your string. So I'm going to use this backtick string to create some HTML that we want jQuery to put inside of our page. Hey, jQuery, you got that OL? Yeah, I got it right here. Okay, here, let me space out my function call a little bit so we can see what we're looking at. I need to put inside of this OL an LI element. So let's start by open angle bracket, LI, closing LI, and then closing the LI element, right? Like plain old HTML, except over here it looks a little weird because this isn't really HTML that you're kind of writing in an HTML file. This is really a string in JavaScript. So it's a little bit uncomfortable over there, where on the one hand, you are doing a cool thing, which is you're making HTML happen inside of the page, but on the other hand, it's not really the native way, the correct way how to put HTML, through JavaScript inside of the page. So this kind of looks like a bland string. You can even make mistakes and you won't even realize it because it just looks like a random string. Over here, I could see, like, if I make some sort of wrong mistake or something, it might tell me, like, oh, there's no element called headers, whatever, which is not telling me actually right now. But let's say if I make an error over here, it colors it in red, and if I mouse over it, it might tell me like an error message or whatever. You could see that you're writing HTML over here. But in this case, everything has a color, and like the opening tag and closing tag and attributes are colored. But in this case, you're just writing a string. So that's a little bit of a difference. But putting that aside, let's say we're ignoring the fact that it's an ugly JavaScript string. I want to make an LI element. And inside of this LI element, I want to put, well, where am I? Let's not forget. We have a deal variable over here. The deal has deal.image and deal.title and deal.link. Let's just test this out to see if it works at all. I want to write in here the deal.link. Let's just test this out. I'm saving the file. I'm actually going to run this. I have an array of deals, and I'm looping through them one by one. And I'm going to tell jQuery to add this HTML into the page, into the OL ordered list that's in my page, which is currently empty. But I'm going to refresh the page and make as if the page is requesting some data from the server. We got all that data from the server, and now let's fill it into the HTML. Refreshing the page now. And nothing happens, probably because we have some sort of error. Let's look at this for a second. I am seeing an error. It's looking for, okay, it didn't find a logo. It didn't find the file. That's fine. But why aren't you running the page? Did we not save this? Main.js. Are you loading up into the file? You should be. Let's see if he has it here. Main.js seems empty. Let's see if he got, oh, he did get it. Okay, now he has it. You see he has all of our JavaScript that we typed over here. I'm going to put a breakpoint to see if he's actually getting here. Are you getting to this, or are you skipping it for some reason? Okay, let's find out. Refreshing the page. Okay, here we are. We're at the loop. We got the deals. We're trying to loop inside of it, one after another. I got a deal object. It has an image. It has a link. It has a title. And now I'm saying, get this element out of the page. Did you get it? Did you find that element? No, he did not find that element. That's the problem. He did not find a body that has a main that has an OL. Did I make a mistake here? Let's see. Oh, that's the problem. Look at our page. Our page doesn't have a body even. It has a head, the head which included the JavaScript file which is running now, but the whole page didn't even finish loading. If you guys remember, when we're running jQuery, you have to first wait until everything loaded into jQuery. Then you can start doing your code. Good lesson learned over there. The page isn't even fully loaded here, and we're trying to do stuff inside of it. If you guys remember, first we will do something like jQuery with the document, and then something like ready. I don't even remember that way. I like to do the shorthand way of doing this, which is jQuery. And then inside of here, you can do $, arrow, opening and closing brace. This is the shorthand of saying, hey, jQuery, as soon as the page is ready and finished, now run all of my code. Otherwise, it's not even going to have the body or the OL or the anything to work with. So let's see if this works now. This is telling jQuery, make sure page is fully loaded first. Okay, which we learned about in the previous lesson. You guys can go back and review that one, or just Google it about jQuery ready, jQuery document ready, you know, waiting until the page is ready to go. All right, let's refresh the page now. Where is the inspector so we can stop debugging? This was another example of where debugging was successful. It was useful to be able to stop through the code and see, hey, what's the problem over here? How come my web page isn't working as it should? And by examining piece by piece and seeing, the object looks good, everything looks good. Let's see, did the jQuery work? Oh, the jQuery didn't work. It didn't find the object inside of the page. It didn't have it. So I had to go and fix something because of that. Now let's refresh the page. And let's see if you got the element. Okay, here we go. Now we're finally fully loaded. The page has all the elements. It has the main, it has the OL, it has everything. Okay, now we're ready to roll. Going into the code, we're looping through all of the objects. Show me when we get to the first one. Here we go. Let's mouse over it. Yep, it has the image, it has the link, it has the title of the first deal out of the array of deals. Now, jQuery, can you grab that OL element out of the page? Let's see if he got it. Yes, he got it. I can even right-click it and see reveal in Elements panel. And it's going to switch to the Elements tab and show me here. There you go. This is the element that I found inside the page. Good job, jQuery. You found it. Now, please append this stuff inside of the HTML. Let me execute it. And you guys can see it added a LI element into the page with the words deal.link in it. So not exactly what we hoped to get, but it did put that text in there, which is cool. jQuery is able to add stuff inside of our page. Let's look at this over here. Here's the OL. At first, it just had a whole bunch of comments inside of it, the whole entire list of hard-coded deals that we deleted, that we took out of there. But then look at the end. It appended, it added at the end of the OL, scroll down to the bottom, another LI. This LI wasn't there to begin with, but jQuery added it in. And it also added in the stupid text of just deal.link. So we did something wrong. Let's go back to our code over here. And if you guys can remember, if I want to take a variable, like when we made an example, var x equals 10, how do I embed that variable inside of a string that starts and ends with a backtick? It's not by just writing the variable name. That's not going to work. I have to signal it as something special so that the string knows, aha, you don't want me to just write the words deal.link. You want me to get the variable deal and go inside of it and get its link and show that inside of the page. How do I show that inside of a backtick string? If any of you guys remembered, we just showed a little example of that a few minutes earlier when we had a variable x, and I wanted to show that variable x inside of the backtick string. Any, yes, very good, Nachman Engel, that's correct. You need to use a dollar symbol, wrap the variable name inside of squiggly brackets, save your JavaScript, reload your page, and it should be working as expected. I'm actually going to stop the debugger. Just keep on and doing what you're supposed to be doing. And voila, lo and behold, we have an LI that has the actual link of the deal. It actually went inside of the deal variable that was inside of the array, that was, the object inside of the array of deals. And it took that link, which was this variable over here, and it showed it in the first one. You see, this one was hip2save.com. That was the first one, hip2save.com. And let's see, what's the second LI over here? All of these LIs weren't there before. How come they magically came in there? With jQuery and JavaScript, we managed to stuff them in. The second link was a very long one that goes to slickdeals.net. That was our second object over here, which had link this thing over here. How did that happen? Well, because we made a for loop. Inside of the for loop, we started counting up from 0 to 1 to 2, and then we stopped. We took that number and we conveniently made ourselves a variable that's going to contain that object of the array. The array has element 0, has element 1, element 2. We grabbed the first one and we said, now we're going to work with you, element 0 of the array. Yes, what do I do with element 0 of the array? Okay, so stash it away in a variable for me for a minute. We'll call it deal, okay? Deal, you're going to be the object that was at the beginning, the first item of the array. And now let's do something cool with it. jQuery, grab something out of the page and append inside of it some HTML, the HTML which will contain this stuff inside of it. So we took this string out of this object, out of this array, by looping through it and getting its link variable inside of it. And we pasted that inside of a new LI element that didn't exist in the HTML before. And we filled it up with this text, and we stuffed that into the OL element that's in your HTML. So how cool is it? With jQuery, with JavaScript, you can fill up your HTML page with a bunch of stuff as we did over here. One LI, another LI. Let's look at the HTML real quick over here. And we'll see in the Elements tab, opening up main, OL, used to only have a bunch of comments. Let me actually delete that out for a second. And now we see in the OL, we have LI, LI, another LI, a whole bunch of LIs that appeared out of nowhere. The first one has this text. The next one has the other text. The third one has the other text. That's stuff that we dynamically generated out of the data, looping through it in JavaScript and filling it into the page with jQuery. And this is just the beginning of the hint of what you guys can possibly do here. Obviously, you can do anything you want with this. If you want to make an A tag that has href equals opening quotes, and then you put the link of the location where you want the people to click to, close the quotes, close the angle brackets, and then here you're going to show the text of the title of the deal, which is what? Which is deal.title. And in order for that to be recognized as a variable, we're going to wrap that into squiggly braces. Okay, close that link up now, close the A tag, and save the JavaScript. Let's reload the page and see how this works now. Before, it just showed the link as plain text, but now it's showing something else entirely. It's showing a nice title of what this deal is, but when I click on it, the link inside of it is the href. That's the link of where we're going to link to, etc., etc. With looping through all of these objects, using jQuery to grab stuff out of the page, and filling up new HTML into the page that didn't used to be there, you can do a lot of cool things over here. You can make the spans that you need. You can create divs that you need. Whatever you have to fill into that LI element, you know, we can kind of, actually, we can make it, you know, we can cheat for ourselves and just copy out this whole entire LI HTML that we wrote beforehand, just paste it right into here, and just fill out over here all the specifics, all the details that we want to fill in. The source should be the deal.image, and the href should be the deal.link, etc., etc. Over here, I'll leave this for you guys to fill in. You guys are going to fill in the title of this particular deal, and magically, jQuery is going to generate LI after LI after LI, each one of it which will have the div and the image and the other div and the A tag and the small, everything over and over again for each time that it loops through this array, taking the objects from the array and filling them into the page one after another after another. Let's just witness this magic miracle one more time. And here we go. We actually put an image into the page with the correct link from where that came from, the image with the source. We made an A tag with a link of where it's supposed to go to. Let's inspect the elements over here. So you guys remember, to begin with, the HTML had nothing inside of the OL. And now when we look inside of the OL and we delete this annoying comment over here, we see the OL is full of good stuff. It has multiple different LIs over here that have been filled in. And you open up the first one, you see it has a div, and it has another div, and it has an A tag, and each one of them has its own unique data inside of it that you got out of the array, out of the objects when you loop through them, and you use jQuery to fill them into the page. So I hope that answers also that other person's question from earlier. How do you take the data out of the JavaScript variables and put it into the page? Hopefully with this example over here, you guys have the beginnings of the ideas of how you do that, how you can loop through stuff in JavaScript and take that information and put it into the HTML page. And with that, you guys can practice this concept, create your own deals page, make it have different deals at different times. Try with this set of data. You know, make one bunch of deals and then switch it out for a totally different set of deals and see if it behaves correctly. See if it has the correct effect that you want it to have. And if each time it fills it in correctly, that means you made your loop correctly, you're using jQuery correctly, and I'm not using the time correctly because I'm a little bit over time. So hope this explained a bunch about JavaScript using data that you may have gotten from a server and filling it into your HTML page. Appreciate all of you guys' time. Thanks for tuning in, and see you guys next time. Thanks again for everything, and much success playing around with all this stuff.